Hey John, how you doing today?
Not too bad. How you doing?
I'm doing all right for what is it, a Friday?
Yeah, I think we got rain coming, so gloomy
Yes,
Friday.
we do. Another month in the books and another interesting month in real estate. How did things shake out for you in September?
Well, I think I'm chuckling because interesting month. I think we're saying that a bit facetiously in the sense that it's hasn't been a strong few months. I think in real estate, the inventory continues to be high, record levels in many communities. Days on market, we're pushing 3, 4 months in some places, less than others. It always comes down to your own community, but the situation is hasn't really changed much. We're seeing minor decreases in price month over month. So some of the gains over the last few years continue to be eroded, and inventory is strong. Of course, houses are still selling. I mean, we can point to any community, and there'll be dozens, if not, look at all of Burlington, for example. There's over 200 sales, closer to 300 actually, in the month of September. So
Yep.
houses are selling, but maybe not at the same clip as we've seen before. And I think for most buyers and sellers, whichever side of the equation you're on, and for many folks you'll be doing both, you really have to kind of think about your situation and the timing that's right for you.
No, I agree. It was definitely an interesting month in September. We always look at September as the kickoff to the fall market.
Yeah.
Um, it's like we're kicking a dead horse right now, not getting up and going. Kind of reflect on September as a whole. I mean, I was a bit fortunate to have a couple of deals come together in September that I've been
Hmm.
working on for a while. So that was a nice win for September. But when I look at the overall sales of the month, certainly was an anomaly. So I like being those every now and then. But overall, sales were up actually. We had, and I'm going to look at it as a region, not by city. I mean, obviously, you want to
Yeah.
jump into reports and look at your own breakdowns. But as a region, we saw sales were up about 6% across the region, which is good news. The downside to that is prices continue to erode. We saw an erosion of price by another 2.5, 3% across the board as an average.
Hmm.
You mentioned days on market. We are sitting at right now about 5.6 months worth of inventory for the region, which is huge compared to what we normally
Well,
carry.
you're clearly in a buyer's market at that point.
Absolutely. I mean, we're double what we typically
Yeah.
carry there in a period of inventory. We continue to break records on new listings on the market or inventory on the market. I mean, we're carrying right now thousands of homes across the region, literally like pushing close up to 10,000 homes across the region. So you got that. Days on market are pushing up in double digits, like 60 to 90 days on the market as an average. Some neighborhoods are pushing over 120, which again, on not it's not unheard of, but it's something we haven't seen in well over a decade. So you
Yeah.
got a lot
Two
of
two
that
to three months
happening.
in most cases.
Yeah, exactly. And but right now we're pushing upwards to 90 days on average.
Yeah.
86, I think, is the average right now across the region. Break it down by category. Condos are pushing in a lot of places over a year's worth of or a
Yeah.
year on the market. So again, you got a lot of things happening there, and not a lot of offset on the other side of that. And that's just the condition of the market that we're in today. And I think a lot of it's driven more, and we've talked about this economics, the disconnect between Canada and the U.S. right now, and it just puts everybody in a position where they don't know if we hit bottom yet. So is it really worth jumping in the market and buying when my house could be potentially worth less down the road?
Well, the job market is huge. There's been some negative news on that front. Various employers, particularly in the auto industry, of late. And I think you hit the nail on the head. If you're not confident in our economic situation as a province or a country, in terms of your and how that relates to you and your job, then
Yep,
chances are you're not in the market. You're not making a move. I think that one thing we do have to remember, though, and we don't want it to be all doom and gloom, obviously, is that the houses are still selling. As I said,
absolutely.
you've got many, like Oakville, for example, had over 200 houses or 200 sales in September, uh, almost 500 in Hamilton. So like houses are still selling. And
Yes.
and and how are they getting it done? Well, it's got to be priced right. It's got to be presented right and marketed right. That's where you have a strategic conversation with your realtor. I
Well, I
think.
think it comes back to setting expectations
Oh
and not
yeah,
just realtors. I think it's if you're going to go on the market and sell your home, you got to really evaluate where the market is today from a price perspective and expectation. If you bought or sold a home 3, 4 years ago, you knew you put your house on the market and you had people lined up to see it and you sold it in 5 days and your house was sold firm over asking. Those conditions are not there today. It doesn't mean your house is not going to sell. It's just it's going to be a process now. It's going
yeah.
to take longer. And what I'm finding, especially I'm looking at on my listings, I mean, you get people come in to look at a house. I got one particular listing, I got a client that's come in and looked at it twice now. They really like it. The realtor comes back and says, yeah, you're at the top of the list, but they haven't pulled the trigger and put an offer in. I mean, I've done everything in the world to try and coax these people to the table. Let's sit down and try and put a deal together. And they just have no sense of urgency. So whatever on their end is driving that reluctance, apparently it's not the home, it's something beyond that. So
Well, and people's personal situations are I think, driving more, are playing a bigger role in the decision making. They're not making those rash decisions and buying a house, the same day they saw it, and like you said, sells in 5 days, in some case 5 hours.
yeah,
But like that doesn't really happen as frequently as we used to see.
well, and it's just a precursor, I guess, to or a pre-warning to sellers when you're going on the market. When I say set expectations, don't expect. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but we're not typically seeing an overnight sale of a house. To be prepared for a longer sales cycle, a longer process, and it has nothing to do with your home or anything like that. It's just the condition of the market where buyers are today.
Well, and if the expectations are moderated and accurate, let's say, chances are you will have success.
Yeah,
Just again, might not be 5 days, it might be, but chances are it'll be longer.
yeah,
And on both sides of the equation, you have to think about what your game plan is. It used to be in a hotter market, you would look at buying first and then selling. I mean, you're not going to do that today,
no,
I mean, I certainly wouldn't advise it. Um, you want to have a firm deal in place in most cases, on the property you have to sell before you pull the trigger on a purchase. There's just too much risk otherwise. And can if it doesn't go according to plan, can you close on the new property if you don't have the other one sold? Most people can't say yes to that question.
I agree. So I mean, that's where we've pushed buyers back. At least on my end, I continue to push buyers or sellers back to say, listen, I know you want to know where you're going, but you're better off knowing you got a sale on one end than know where you're going and end up owning two homes. Can you
Well,
afford
or
to
being in the awful position of not being able to close, and
or
then
not being able to close?
then you're getting sued for losses.
Yeah. So
But
you know what?
that's where get pre-qualified, obviously, on the purchase, but all hands on deck, accurate, reasonable plan and strategic plan, frankly, on the sale, and get it done before you move on. But I
I
think,
mean,
I
it's
think,
not to be doom and gloom on everything. I think it's just to be realistic about where the
yeah,
market is today and set expectations. Don't be distracted by, the we can sell your house in 5 days or we can do this or like all these gimmicky stories that are out there right now, or where people
well,
are
there's
pricing
tons of
the
them. You
house.
hear the commercials on the radio all the time.
I
It
agree.
sold in 3 days, or the
It's
agent will
just so
buy it.
misleading
Yeah,
to
right.
people. I mean, it's not the reality of where we are today, and it's unfortunate that that's the stuff that's distracting people. They hear and they think that's what reality is, and it's just not reality
No,
today.
no.
Even this, oh well, if we don't sell it, if we can't sell your home, we'll buy it. Ask them how much they'll buy it for. I want $1.6 million for my house, but if we can't sell it, we'll buy it for 900,000.
Yeah.
Really? What kind of guarantee is that? So I mean, there's lots of that gimmicky stuff going on out there. The problem is it distracts from what's really happening in the market, and it conditions people to have unrealistic expectations. And that's the last thing we want to do is mislead anybody. We want to make sure when they get into this, if you're at a position that you want to sell your house or buy a home, let's make sure we're doing it right. Make sure the expectations are there and we're entering the market with being realistic.
Yeah, no, you got to be. And I think for those who are considering making a move, whether it's a first time purchase, or somebody who's upsizing, downsizing, buying and selling for whatever reason, I think their personal situation is going to be the biggest driving factor. And it sounds cliche. We've both talked about this before, but when is the right time to buy or sell? Well, when it's right for you. And
Yeah.
frankly, as cliche as it may sound, it's true more often than not.
Well, that's proving out right now as all these buyers are
Yeah.
sitting on the sidelines evaluating everything that's going on, and they're determining this is not the right time for me to buy or sell.
Yeah, and for those who aren't concluding or making the decision to do so, and have decided and realized that maybe it is the right time for them, like they probably came prepared
Yeah.
with their pre-qualification and realistic expectations and a solid strategy for the sale of their property. And if you check every box on the proverbial uh, checklist, chances are you will have success in
Yeah.
some shape or form. And I think again, we don't have zero sales. We still have hundreds of sales in
There's
most cities.
5,500 homes that sold last month across the GTA,
Yeah.
GTHA.
So
So sales are still happening.
so they're still happening, and for a buyer to have success in that market, or a seller to have success in that market, they just have to be prepared. And we've talked about before, timing your purchase and your sale as closely as possible together.
Yeah.
Maybe not in that order. We'll go sale first, then purchase. But but the closer you can tie that together, the less likelihood you'll have changes in market conditions that'll potentially impact your transactions in some shape or form.
I agree. I think my messaging to people this month is patience. Make sure you're being patient in what you're doing. Analyze your situation, um, and don't get distracted by all the little messaging out there how everybody thinks that they're going to sell your house for premium top dollar in a market that's not delivering that today. Educate yourself and know what it is and be realistic. And if the timing's right, if you're able to check all those boxes and decide that, yeah, it's the right time for us, regardless of everything else that's going on, then make sure you're making all those right decisions up front to best prepare yourself for the path to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I know you've got a daughter in college. Think about her exams when she has them. There's no
Right
silver
now, she's
bullet.
downstairs writing a midterm paper.
You don't study, it's not going to go well. So you got to do all the right things, and if you do, it's going to work out.
Yep. So,
So,
well, until next month, let's hope we got a little different story in October. I suspect we'll be singing the same song or just a different verse. But let's continue to hope that things make a little bit of improvements here and there. And again, if anybody's looking to get some information about what is going on in the market to help decide for them, reach out to us. I mean, we're both fully equipped with all the information about what's been happening over the last 10 years, really, as far back we track. So we can tell you where we are versus where we were. And neither one of us has a crystal ball, so we're not going to be able to tell you what's going to happen in the future, but we can certainly make sure you're armed as best as possible to make the right decision for you.
absolutely. Well, until next month,
All right, bud.
happy selling. We'll
All the
talk
best.
soon.
We'll talk soon. Bye.